many of you hate to fly? Anybody hate to fly? Well, you're looking at a big guy up here who hates to fly, right? And customarily what I do is I get ready to come and give presentations or get ready to fly. I always, for whatever reason, every time I'm about to fly, I see something about something going wrong with a plane. One night I was on my way to Atlanta and there was a show on called Why Does Plane Crash? And I watched it. But as I was preparing to come here and give a message, I came across a story about a Southwest flight, which I was on the Southwest flight, going to North Carolina. And the pilot was really trying to talk to his flight crew, but he inadvertently hit the PA system. And what he said was that we're in trouble. I think we're going down. Right, oh my God. Imagine that. Imagine being in the sky and the pilot who you've entrusted, who you've put your faith in, who you prayed as you were taking off, comes over the PA system when he should be telling the joke and he says, we're in trouble, I think we're going down. And so what happened next is that passengers went into a panic. They were pulling out their cell phones. They were crying. They were screaming. Some were thinking that, well, if this is the way that I'm going to go, it's going to be quick. Some even had the opportunity to text their loved ones and say, I love you, but the plane is going down. Ladies and gentlemen, I came all the way here from Chicago to Baltimore to tell you, all the youth service providers in this room, that we're in trouble. I think we're going down. Now, that's not to dismiss all of the accolades, all of the awards, all of the great work that you have done with young people all across the United States. Not to say that you have not saved lives. But it was in 1975 when my father went to work for the Illinois Department of Corrections. And in 1975, there was less than 10,000 people incarcerated in the state of Illinois. In 2014, there's close to 50,000 people incarcerated in the state of Illinois, and another 40,000 or so on some type of electronic monitoring, parole, some type of system where they have contact. I had the opportunity about 5 years ago to go work for Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. For those of you who are familiar with it, you know that it's the largest single standing detention center in the country. One of the things that struck me as I walked into the building was the fact that everyone I saw looked like me. It hurt me walking into the facility every day, seeing 300 young African-American boys detained, incarcerated. It made me beg the question, how is it possible that African-American youth only represent about 17% of the population of youth between the ages of 10 and 17, but they represent up to 98% of those who are detained? I came up with a project. Me and a colleague who now lives here in Washington, D.C., we came up with a project. I had a mentor who said at the beginning of every year, Mac, you need to come up with a BHAG. A BHAG stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. You got to write that down. Big, hairy, audacious goal. And so me and her got to talking, and I said, we're going to come up with the goal of educating, training, and letting everybody know about the issue of disproportionate minority contact. See, I would go to people and I would say, do you know about DMC? And they would say, who, run? DMC? What do you mean DNC? Some people call it racial and ethnic disparities. Other people call it mass incarceration. Michelle Alexander, who I had the opportunity to meet, wrote a fantastic book called The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. But I knew that I had to do something. How many of you know that your life has purpose? Each and every one of us in here, our life has purpose. And once you connect to that purpose, you have to have the courage to show up behind that purpose. I knew that in Cook County, me forming a DMC committee was not going to be popular, especially since I worked on the inside, right? The superintendent told me, well, Mac, we're not the front door. We should not be speaking to this issue. But I said, because of what we see at the back door, we need to tell the public what we're seeing. See, I know because I've written grants. Me and Kristen over the years have been to D.C. trying to get funds for programs just to do the basic. But in Cook County, we spend almost $600 a day to detain a youth. $600 a day. How many, by show of hands, could take about $50 a day and really do some amazing things with some young people? A Of the 300 young people that I would come and see every day, just to be honest, probably about 70 needed to be detained. These were the ones who committed violent crimes. These were the individuals who you could not let back in the community because they were shooters and things of that nature. But most of the ones who were there on a daily basis came back for probation violations and would be held for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. We're in the midst of something subtle. I said in this project that me and my friend worked on that we need to talk to taxpayers. As a taxpayer, you should know that you're spending $600 a day to detain a youth instead of providing services to that youth in the community. The National Center for Crime and Delinquency did a study on Cook County a few years ago, and they said that the arrest rate for African American to whites was 46 to 1. I heard that. 46 to 1. We're in the midst of something subtle. There's something that has to be done. I know from my own life, I grew up in a single parent household. Although I had a relationship with my father, he was not in the household. And so I understand about being an angry young black man. And you all see I'm a big black man, right? I wasn't always wearing suits and ties. But someone cared about me long enough to get me through the pain that I was experiencing. How many of you know that hurt people hurt people? And so what we see a lot in our communities is young people who are struggling, young people who just want somebody to care about them, young people who need help. In 1974, the federal government made a mandate to all of the states to reduce disproportionate minority contact. How many years ago was that? 40 years ago. The problem has gotten worse. They were mandated. And out of 3,100 counties throughout the United States, only 2 counties were successful in having some success over a sustained period of time. You know that was in Montana. It certainly wasn't in Chicago. But what I want to say to you is that we have to start aiming high. It was Dr. Benjamin E. Mays who says that, let it be borne in mind that the tragedy in life does not lie in us not reaching our goals. The tragedy lies in having no goals to reach. It is not a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It is not a disaster to have not captured your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. And it's not a disgrace to not reach for the stars, but there is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. We have to aim high. We have to aim high because we cannot continue to blame the problems of our society on 14-year-olds. Basically, the problem in our society is that 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds have been failed by who? Us. And so we have to dig deeper. We have to be willing to dig down deep. We have to be able to go back to whatever state, whatever county, whatever community and repurpose. They got so mad at me, I had to leave Cook County. I was glad to do it because my thing is I need to be in a position where I can speak truth to power. I need to be in a position where I can go around the country and talk about what's going on and talk about what I'm seeing, like the young lady telling the stories of the people that she's helping. We have to tell these stories. We cannot just depend on the nightly news to get our information about what the truth is. The very first speaker this morning said sometime before we act, we have to think. Sometime before we act, we have to listen. Sometimes we got to go into these communities and really try to figure out what the problem is because there are risk factors. Every time we write a grant, for all of you grant writers in here, we have to list the risk factors. Then we got to list the protective factors. But we're not really paying attention to the risk factors of poverty, of lack of educational funding, of unemployment, of underemployment. Those things have a vast impact and effect on families. A man can't feed his children. What is he going to do? A man can't get a job. What is he going to do? I used to work for a program called Safer Return, which was connected with the Safer Foundation in the city of Chicago. And men would come out of prison after 10 or 15 years and get paid $100 a week to work on a street detail. What are they going to do? What could you do with $100 a week just out of prison? And then you're wearing an X on your back. I refuse to call them ex-felons. I call them formerly incarcerated just out of respect. You went and you paid your debt to society. Now you should be able to come back into society and have a chance at making a life. But it's business. Let's just keep it real. It's big business. When I looked at Cook County and saw that we had 300 youth detained, but we had 600 people on the payroll. Something was wrong with that. We cannot continue to feed our kids to the system. I'm the father of an 11-year-old daughter. Her name is Maya. And so a lot of times when I go around to speak, I have this campaign. I call it the campaign, A Husband for Maya. I want a husband for my daughter. But if they continue to get locked up at record rates, who will be there that she can bring home to me and present as presentable? I think I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna need your help. A husband for Maya. And so as I get ready to go to a close, I want to share a story with you. A story about a salesman, a traveling salesman. This salesman would spend most of his week on the road going from city to city. Because of his job, his occupation, he didn't have the opportunity to make a whole lot of friends. He didn't have a wife, nor did he have any children. He thought about getting a dog, but he said, well, who would let the dog out? Who would feed the dog while I was on the road? So this gentleman made a decision that he would invest in tropical fish. See, at least he would have somebody waiting on him when he got home, right? He would have somebody to feed. I know it sounds silly because, see, most of us in here have somebody to go home to. But when you don't have somebody to go home to, those tropical fish for this salesman, they made the bill for him. It was okay for him. He looked forward to getting home. He actually gave each and every one of the fish a different name. And he would come home and he would talk to his fish. This one particular week, he got home on a Friday after a long week out on the road, and he went to feed the fish, and he was tired, so he decided to go to bed. And as he lay there asleep during the night, the thermostat in the fish tank malfunctioned. And as he lay there comfortable, unbeknownst to him, the water in the tank was getting hotter and hotter. All through the night, as he dreamed about his sales trip next week, his tropical fish were boiling to death. When he woke up in the morning, he saw that all his fish had floated to the top of the tank and they were all dead. And he asked one of the most provocative questions I've heard in the last 25 years, and he said, I wonder if while I slept through the night, did my fish cry out for me? Ladies and gentlemen, we have turned off our ears to our young people. The thermostat has broken in our communities, in our families, with our young people. And we as service providers do not have the ears to hear. We have to start listening to our young people. We have to get in there, get in the tank, fix that thermostat so that they can have hope, so that they can one day get through all the trials that I got through, being a victim of violence at the age of 19, stabbed 3 times and left dead. But I'm here, standing here today before you because somebody cared about me. And so my call to action and I want to admonish you to go back to your cities, go back to your states. Dig a little deeper. I was talking to some young lady earlier today, and we was talking about the most irritating clients are the ones that need you the most. That's an opportunity to really dig in, because when they're displaying certain behaviors, the behaviors they're displaying is letting you know that they need you. We have to save our youth. When you want a thing bad enough, you have to go out and fight for it. Work day and night for it. Give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it. When all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it. But if you simply sweat for it, fret for it, and plan for it, and lose all your terror of the opposition for it, and if you simply go after that thing that you want, with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, if neither famine, cold, or poverty, or gaunt, or sickness and pain, the body or brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogs and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God you've provided, I believe you will get it. Thank you.